Slavoj Zizek, thanks for joining me on UpFront. Leftists, socialists, liberals, progressives all over the world, even moderate conservatives, are mourning the victory of Donald Trump. And yet you, one of the world's best-known leftist philosophers, best-known Marxists, said you wanted him to win and you would have voted for him if you could. What on earth were you thinking? Surely you must regret saying that now.
No, I don't regret saying it, because for me, as really an old-fashioned leftist, the main task today is this one: how to get things moving to restructure the political space of the United States. And for me, Hillary Clinton is the establishment candidate. She built an impossible coalition. Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street, Saudi Arabian money, LGBT+, and so on and so on. But somebody was excluded. Hillary won because she neutralized, to put it gently, Bernie Sanders, the more authentic.
Okay, so you didn't like Hillary Clinton, but what does Donald Trump bring? What positive does it bring?
Nothing
that you
good immediately.
So why would you want to vote for him if you were in
What he
America?
brings is the spirit of urgency all around the political spectrum, chaos, and you know, I'm an old Maoist nonetheless, you know, which is my favorite Mao Zedong saying.
Yeah.
There is disorder under the heaven, the situation is excellent. Which means this one, in this chaos, which I think it's not as dangerous as sometimes people paint it.
You say it's not as dangerous, and you say chaos can help shake up the system, bring a sense of urgency. But in order for that urgency, in order for what you've written is an awakening of a more authentic left, is your phrase. In order for that to happen, millions of people have to lose healthcare in the United States. The Iranian nuclear deal has to be rewritten. The fight against what Trump calls the Chinese hoax of climate change has to be abandoned. Basically, millions of people in the US and around the world have to suffer in the short and the long run.
I'm not so sure.
In order for you to get what you want.
I'm not so sure that, frankly, I'm not so sure that all this will happen.
You don't think 20 million people will lose health insurance next year when Donald Trump comes into power and withdraws the Affordable Care Act?
I don't
Is that a price worth paying for you, for your chaos?
I don't buy this liberal left propaganda.
It's not liberal left. There's scholars across the spectrum have warned of his authoritarian, fascistic. Mitt Romney is not a liberal. He warned against Donald Trump's extremism.
He's establishment.
Okay, but that's not liberal. Just to use your.
This scare of Donald Trump is really a scare.
So he's a paper tiger in your view.
No, paper tigers also can bite, you know.
Well, no, it's interesting that you should say bite, because, you know, some would say, look at you and say, it's easy for you as a white, male, middle-class academic to push for this chaos-inducing Trump presidency, because you're not going to suffer as a result of it. You're not a person of color. You're not a Muslim who might be banned from the US. You're not a Latino who might be deported from the US. You're speaking from a position of white privilege.
Maybe, but I will tell you first, there are also differences between white people and so on and so on. I'm paying my own price for for positions. But let's drop that, that's not important. I claim that I know I'm, as they say, walking on a very thin ice. But I think my vision is even much more pessimistic than yours. I'm claiming that we are really internationally approaching a very difficult moment. Maybe with events in Eastern Europe, Ukraine, in Syria and so on. There is a serious chance of a new world conflict, ecological catastrophes, refugees and so on, all that. And my point is this one. I don't think we can afford what Hillary Clinton stood for. You know,
But we can afford what Donald Trump stands for. You say ecological crisis, elect a climate change denier. That's your logic.
Yeah, but thereby he opens up a space for radical reshuffling of the entire political space.
But, I mean, what's your evidence for that? You say he opens up a space. Where in history has that actually ever happened? Where has it succeeded? You say that you're a former Maoist. It didn't work in Mao's China. It didn't work in Germany. When people voted for the Nazis in 1932 to shake up the Weimar Republic, it didn't shake up Germany.
This is a good parallel.
Well, you give me your parallel. Give me a parallel where it worked.
No, let me.
Give me a parallel
where
where
did it work? It works with Mao. I think, and it's a very cynical Marxist interpretation, that the true outcome of cultural revolution was Deng Xiaoping.
Okay. And how many millions of people died for Deng Xiaoping?
Yeah, but I'm not saying...
So to go back to my earlier question, millions of people have to suffer for your vision of a better world to come about.
Wait a minute. Do you think that we live now in a real world? Millions already suffer.
Okay, so you want to add to their suffering. I mean, millions already suffer, but you want to elect a climate change denier, someone who wants to tear up health insurance, tear up an Iran nuclear deal that could prevent a major war in the Middle East?
No, you don't get it.
No, I don't. Explain it to me.
If things go on the way they go now, we are approaching a catastrophe, and I'm ready to do whatever you want.
To shake up the system.
No, I don't know.
What's your phrase? What are you trying to do?
Shake up, not destroy. I'm not an old Marxist who believes that some working class party or communist party will emerge. The whole political map has to be redrawn. We need new options.
But a lot of people want to withdraw the political map, especially
but they
on the
don't want to pay a price.
Oh, so you will pay a price. To go back to my earlier question, who's paying the price, Slavoj Zizek? You won't be paying the price. It's women in hijabs in the street who are having their headscarves pulled off by Trump supporters. It's racists who are emboldened. It's poor black people who are going to lose health insurance in the United States. They're the ones paying the price. You won't be paying the price. It's very easy for others to pay the price for your utopian vision, many would say.
No, but again, you are putting it in this instrumental terms.
You put it in your terms.
No,
who's paying the price? Your words.
No, and then
who's paying the price?
What does then your option amount to? We all criticize Hillary, but let's stick with her. Let's go on with the status quo. And
you wanted Bernie Sanders.
Sorry?
You wanted Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
So how did you go from Bernie Sanders to Donald Trump?
Because I think that the big mistake of Democrats was to neutralize Bernie Sanders.
Many would agree with you on that. On the one hand, you're saying Donald Trump can shake up the system, create space for change. On the other hand, when I say he's a dangerous ideologue, he's going to abandon climate change, you say that's all liberal hysteria. Which one is it?
No.
Is he a danger who's going to shake up the system, or is he a paper tiger?
He is, that's maybe I'm wrong here, but that's how I see the situation. He is dangerous, but at the same time, the true monsters are, for me, people like Rick Santoro, Ted Cruz, and so on and so on.
Republican politicians who are now all emboldened by Donald Trump's presidency. You are aware, Slavoj Zizek.
Will he? No,
he now controls, hold on, he controls the White House. The Republicans control the Senate, the House of Representatives. He will now appoint a 9th deciding swing voter to the Supreme Court. The Republicans have a unified government to do all the things that you claim to hate.
Yes, but again, for me, the main thing is political mobilization of the left to break out of a status quo.
How do you know they're going to break out? How do you know they all just won't go home depressed and defeated at the sight of a unified Republican government that further gerrymanders the system, that further brings money into politics?
I don't know. Speaking of money into politics, don't forget that the establishment candidate was Hillary Clinton.
But the Republican Supreme Court is what brought in unlimited funding into US politics. That's only going to increase on Donald Trump's watch.
I know. But again, I still think that Donald Trump is scum. I'm not afraid to use this term. But that he's a total brutal pragmatist. I don't think that all these scares will be realized and so on and so on.
Please help me out with this contradiction. You don't think the scares will be realized, but you think he'll help shake up the system. Either he is going to shake up the system, in which case he's crazy dangerous, or he's not, in which case why vote for him to try and shake up the system? It's a complete contradiction in your argument.
I'm not saying...
which one?
Vote for him. I would abstain in the election.
So you've changed your position, because earlier, before the election, you said you would vote for Donald Trump.
They used a 2-minute clip, then afterwards, but let's not go into that.
So you wouldn't have voted for Donald Trump? Let's just
I would abstain. Absolutely. Okay. I would abstain. No, all I'm saying is that in this situation in which we are now, only some kind of a shake-up can save us. And one good thing about Donald Trump, and it's an obscenity to call this a good thing, is that he put into great disarray, it almost fell apart. Okay, now maybe the power will reunite them, the Republican Party. Now, Democratic Party will have to rethink its defeat and so on and so on. Out of all this, an authentic leftist alternative may emerge. I'm not saying about...
May emerge. It's a big risk.
May. Yes, but you know, you are saying as if, even if it doesn't remain... You know what I...
well, the cost is high, I think is what we're discussing.
Okay.
Let me ask you this.
But you know what? Okay. The highest cost is the cost of status quo going on.
Okay.
We are approaching a potential global war with Hillary, who is more a cold warrior than Trump, and so on.
Well, let's see what happens when the Iran deal is torn up. In April this year, you say that Donald Trump is scum and you would have abstained. In April of this year, you told The Guardian's Gary Young that Trump, who, let's not forget, called for a ban on Muslims entering the US, wants to build a wall on the border, wants to bring back torture, encourage physical attacks on protesters, threaten the media and the judiciary. You said about him, quote, he's a pretty ordinary centrist politician. You cannot be serious. Surely you're just trolling people when you say that. You're just provoking.
No, I think
a centrist.
No, a centrist, a total opportunist. Look, don't you remember what Trump said about...
What is ordinary about Donald Trump's attacks on protesters, attacks on the media, attacks on the judiciary, attacks on Muslims? What is ordinary about that?
I will tell you. Here it was his pretty ingenious strategy. The greatest stupidity of Democrats was... Didn't you feel this? How whenever he said something extremely vulgar, stupid, they thought, now he committed suicide, now we got him. They didn't get the logic of his popularity. Ordinary people precisely identified with his vulgarities. He is one of us in this. He's an ordinary guy like me. Of course, it's a fake ordinariness. But
it's different to say he's an ordinary guy and to say he's an ordinary centrist politician, as if he's some kind of moderate. If he's a moderate, then who is extreme?
I claim that we will see what will happen to another thesis. I claim that he is not a dangerous guy who is appearing to be polite, that all his violent outbursts, completely vulgar, tasteless statements, mask the fact that there is nothing extraordinary about him. That literally in his policy... Yeah. Okay. No, wait a minute, and I'm aware, my God, I've written, as you pointed out, about it. Let me be absolutely clear. As a leftist conservative, sorry the irony, by conservative I don't mean pro-Trump, which I'm not, I mean a guy who paradoxically think, and I hope we agree here, that precisely with persons like Trump, who are bringing unheard of brutality into public language, things that many of us unfortunately thought, but kept private. He made them public and so on. In such a situation, isn't this a nice thought? I like it. That the left shouldn't be ashamed to appear as a protector of simple decency, human values, and so on and so on. I think the way we talk publicly matters.